Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things which goes along with the quote from The Godfather. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Negotiations and how they apply to the real estate transaction. It's The Real Estate Show.
Well, when Johnny was first starting out, he was signed to this personal service contract with a big band leader. And as his career got better and better, he wanted to get out of it. Now, Johnny is my father's godson, and my father went to see this band leader, and they offered him $10,000 to let Johnny go. But the band leader said no. So the next day, my father went to see him, only this time with Luca Brazzi. And within an hour, he signed a release for a certified check of $1,000.
How'd he do that?
My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
What was that?
Luca Brazzi held a gun to his head, and my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. It's a true story.
Welcome to The Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. We're going to talk about negotiations. When do you negotiate as part of a real estate transaction? And I'm going to stay very basic. There are 3 times mainly that you're going to find yourself in a mode where you're going to need to negotiate. That, of course, is when you first go to look at a house that you're looking to buy and what you're going to offer as a price on that house. When an offer is accepted, the second time you'll find yourself in a negotiation is when you've had your home inspection done. And that could be on items that the home inspector has recommended you go back to the seller and have done. And the third time that everyone seems to forget is that last minute negotiation. And that's where you do your final walkthrough and you may find issues that you have to bring to the closing table to have the attorneys hash out. Negotiation, a very important part of a real estate transaction. Let's sit back and watch a virtual tour of a home for sale, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit more about negotiation. We're talking on the Real Estate Show about negotiations. Negotiation is a very important part of your real estate transaction, and there are several times that you're going to find yourself in a situation of give and take with the seller of the home that you're looking to purchase. Now, there are certain guidelines you need to keep in mind in any kind of negotiation. First thing I wanted to share with you is what a definition of negotiation is. Wikipedia gives us a definition of negotiation is a formal discussion between people who are trying to reach an agreement. Very simple to understand. There are several points that you need to keep in mind when you begin your negotiation. One of the points that's recommended is the first thing is you have to be able to share information. Now, that information is shared to you right away in a number of different ways. First of all, you know what the asking price is of the home when you go to see it. You've seen the home, so you know what's there. You've looked at the disclosures that the seller has provided, so you kind of have an idea of any issues or problems with the home. You're also going to have the information that's provided to you if you make an offer and it's accepted and a home inspector goes through the home. So you have a lot of information that's going to be shared with you in order to make your decision. Also keep in mind that when you're going through any kind of negotiation, you want to have your priorities in line. And what I mean by that is you know what you want in the home that you're looking to purchase. Know what those items are. It could be things like size of rooms, location, school area, the neighborhood area, whatever. But you want to know what things are important to you and what things are not important to you as you go through the process. When you make your offer, you need to know how much of an offer you can make. And I usually call this setting your target price and your walk-away price. And what I mean by that is you want to go into a negotiation knowing what you're going to offer on the home. And if there's a counteroffer, let's say the seller doesn't accept your initial offer, how much you're willing to do or where you're going to go. And what is your maximum? In other words, what is the maximum you would offer on that property before you feel that it's not worth it and you're willing to walk away from the negotiation? So you kind of want to try to decide that. And as I've said many times on the Real Estate Show, your realtor is your guide. So make sure you discuss all that with your realtor so you kind of know where you're going to be when you start that initial negotiation. You also hope that you're in the position of being the first one to make an offer on that home. I mentioned on a previous Real Estate Show that one of the regrets a lot of buyers have is they'll go and they'll look at a home, they like the home, it's on the top of their list, but they feel they want to go look at a couple of other properties before they make a decision, and then by the time they get back to that home, it's already been sold to someone else. So kind of plan with your realtor. When you go and you see a home and it fits your requirements, you want to make sure that you're going to make an offer. And what I recommend, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that offer be an initially strong offer so it has a really good chance of being accepted. If you run into a situation of where you do make an offer and the seller feels it's too low and they make a counter offer to you, you now have the opportunity to make a counter offer back to them. You can agree to it or maybe make another offer. Point of warning here. What happens is a lot of people get into a trap in the negotiation of a price on the home of getting a counter offer and then upping their counter offer by a very small amount. Then the seller comes back and makes another counter. Then the buyer comes back and makes another counter. And all this back and forth starts to build a mistrust between the parties. You may not accomplish your goal of being able to purchase that home. So when you get in a counteroffer situation, make sure you always go back close to or what the seller is recommending so that the negotiation period is a little bit shorter. Let's sit back and watch another virtual tour of a home that's for sale, and I'll be back to talk a little bit more about negotiations. As you're negotiating on the purchase of a home and you've now gotten through the stage of where you've come to terms on the offering price and the seller's accepted it, your next opportunity for negotiation is going to be when you do your home inspection. Now, home inspectors are licensed individuals that are trained in all the current codes as far as homes are concerned, and they've usually been through many homes or inspected many homes, so they know what to look for. The home inspector is going to do his inspection. I'm asked sometimes by folks, how long does an inspection take? Depends on the size of the home. Usually the time to do an average size home is about 2.5 hours. Usually the cost for an inspection could be anywhere from $400 to $500, more or less, depending on the inspector and the services that they provide. But once the home inspector has gone through the home, and by the way, folks, if you're a buyer, I highly recommend you take the time to be there during the inspection. Don't rely on your realtor to be there. You go. If you have to take time off from work, please take time off from work. It's a very important purchase. You want to be there. Plus, you want to hear the inspector explain why or what they're going to put in the report and ask questions. But after the inspection's done, you're going to get a written report. That report is going to be designed in such a way where it goes through every single item on the home, but it also breaks down, in the inspector's opinion, 3 things. Those 3 things usually are categorized in what should be done immediately, what should be done in possibly the near future, and those items you might want to keep aware of that are things you might want to do down the road. And the way I describe that is things that should be done immediately are if, for instance, leaks in water pipes are found, or a leak in the ceiling is found, or there's some kind of code violation. Things that should be done might be things like needing to repaint something or fix a railing on a deck or a loose stone in a walkway. And things out in the future could be things like the roof may need to be replaced in 5 or 10 years, or other things that could be out in the future. Sometimes I've run into, they'll write that the furnace is older, it's working fine, but you may want to look at upgrading it for more efficiency, so on and so forth in the future. Take the time to look at the inspection, read through it, sit with your realtor, talk about it, and discuss those items that might be in the inspection that are worthy of negotiation with the seller. You don't want to get too crazy with those home inspections. I've seen some pretty weird things be requested and be rejected. You want to make sure that you're asking for things that the seller will be willing to do to help move the buying process forward. We're talking on the Real Estate Show about negotiations, and I want to just spend a moment to talk about offering prices. One of the big questions when you see a home for sale and you go out and look at it and it fits what you want is, obviously the house has been listed and there's an asking price. And the question always is that asking price firm? Is that non-negotiable? Well, the answer is no, of course it's negotiable. It's the asking price that the seller has put the home on the market based on a market survey or a market analysis that their listing agent and agency has provided with them. It's their goal amount. The National Association of Realtors has published statistics, and it seems to land around the same area every year, at least the last 3 years it has, where the average price that's accepted on a listed home is about 97 to 98% of asking. Now, there could be a number of different items that are negotiated as to why the house didn't sell for full price. There could be credits involved for closing costs. There could be a market analysis done by the buyer representative that shows the house is not quite worth that amount. There could be concerns about appraisal values and so on and so forth. But usually the initial offers that come in at around 97% of asking have a very good chance of getting accepted by the seller, so they can move to the next stage. Let's take a quick look at a presentation that I put together that kind of focuses on the items that you should keep in mind when you're in the process of negotiating. Are negotiations finished? Not necessarily. There's one more stage where you may find yourself involved in a negotiation, and that's when you do what's called the final walkthrough with your realtor. A walkthrough is when you as the buyer has the opportunity to go back to the home that you're looking to purchase and walk through it before you go to the closing table. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you do that walkthrough. One of the main reasons, obviously, is to make sure that everything's still there. If you've agreed to a price on the home for the way that it is, and everything that's supposed to be there should be there, like the refrigerator and the stove and the washer and the dryer and so on and so forth, or anything that you've agreed, you're doing your walkthrough to make sure that stuff is still there before you're closed. You're also going through the house with your inspection list. If there are items that you negotiated to be corrected by the seller, you want to go back to the home and make sure those things were done to your satisfaction. It's also your opportunity that if there's a problem that has arose, to be able to go to the closing table and let your attorney know what those issues are. Could be the refrigerator's not there that's supposed to be, could be the washer and dryer's not there, could be that a leak has developed someplace, whatever it might be. This part of the negotiation process is at the closing table where you let your attorney know what the issues are from the walkthrough. The attorney meets with the other side's attorney and they hash out an agreement so that you can go ahead and close and be satisfied with your purchase. Let's take a break and look at a short presentation that I put together, and afterwards I'll be back with the real estate mailbag. This is the part of the show I call the real estate mailbag. It's my opportunity to address questions that are emailed here to the show, questions that are asked to me by fellow realtors or people that I just happen to bump into while I'm out and about in the neighborhoods. And actually the email that came in gave me the idea for the topic of this real estate show, which is negotiations. The email basically had said, what happens if I decide to purchase a home and then change my mind? I don't want to go ahead and buy that home. I just changed my mind. Well, let's explain it this way. First of all, you've entered into a contract. You've negotiated a price for that home. And as part of the contract, you've given a deposit, or what they call escrow monies, along with that contract. You may have even taken it to the stage of where when the contract has been accepted, you were required to put a second escrow deposit down in order to firm up the deal. Now, because you've done that and the sellers accepted the contract, the house has come off the market. It's now in limbo while it's going through its process for a closing. It doesn't mean that other realtors may still show the house and that a backup offer can come in, but it does mean that the seller has agreed to pretty much take their home off the market because they're under contract to a buyer under an agreement to purchase that home. Here in our state, You get your escrow money or your deposit money back upon an agreement between the seller and the buyer that the deal cannot move forward. Now, getting to the email. If you just change your mind, you decide I don't want to go forward with the deal, and you can't provide a written, reasonable addressment to why you want to back out of the deal, the seller can, in some instances, say, hey, I took my house off the market in good faith. You decide to back out of the deal, I'm going to keep the deposit. So if you're going to back out of a contract, make sure that you have the documented proof to do that. I want to end this show with another Godfather quote, another favorite one of mine. And that was issued or said by the character Peter Clemenza. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.